Hello and welcome back, everybody. SF Live episode 103 this morning. It's Tuesday. I'm joined in a few short seconds by Mike Brown, Managing Director and CEO of Chesser Resources. Also, we have a special co-host today. It's Christian Elfring. He's the Mining Catalyst on Twitter, at Mining Catalyst. Make sure to follow him as well. He's got regular commentary on press releases of companies, so make sure to sign up to his channel, follow him there as well, and really appreciate him joining us. He knows the company better than I do, so might as well rely on the experts when you have somebody on the team that you can rely on and ask the tough questions. Also, please be reminded, this is an interactive format. Use hashtag AskCHX for your questions here during our live interview. Also, follow us on YouTube and Twitter. Hit the alert and subscribe button. That way you get notified when we go live with another update. That's it from me. Now, let me switch over to the two gentlemen. And Mike, Christian, thanks for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it. Hope everybody's doing well. Christian, you're in Amsterdam. Mike, you're in Vancouver here with me. How are things?
Doing very well, thanks, Kai. It's great to be back. COVID has still got us, but hopefully there's some light at the tunnel there. And meanwhile, we're still able to explore pretty hard in Senegal and getting some great results. So it's fantastic to be back and update everyone on those.
Fantastic. Christian, welcome on the program as well. Appreciate you joining us for some additional firepower against Mike here. And we're trying to poke some holes into some his fantastic drill results and ask the tough questions there and get some good answers from him as well. But before we do that, Mike, I'm just going to quickly ask you, run us through Chesser Resources real quick, 30, 60-second overview. Who is Chesser? What are you guys doing? What kind of stage are you at?
Okay, so Kai, Chesser is an Australian listed explorer, junior explorer, CHZ on the ASX is our current listing. We're focused on precious metals, gold in particular, in Senegal, West Africa. It's a prolific belt that we're located on. 45 million ounces have been discovered there and are mined by majors. We're focused there on an exploration greenfield where we've had 2 discoveries, and we've just started a 20,000 metre program, just announced the first results from that program, and we've been lucky enough to continue the drill success that we had prior to the wet season. So early stage exploration with great high grade shallow discoveries is, I guess, the wrap.
Fantastic. And you actually been on the program earlier in August. So this is more of an update than an in-depth Chesser Resources conversation. So we're just going to talk about what has happened since August. I know you put out some MET results. And of course, we got to talk about the drill results from yesterday. And I'm going to hand over to Christian, actually, to ask the tough questions and poke some holes into the story. And Christian, why don't you take us away?
Yes, thank you, Kai. Thank you for inviting me. And thanks, Mike, for joining us. Yeah, great drilling results yesterday. Horrible timing. Yeah, but what can you do? But let's start with the MET results you released 2 weeks ago. Can you take us through them and what's the significance and importance of them?
Yeah, thanks, Christian. The MET was an important safety check for us, I guess, a sort of tick in the due diligence box. We have a system that is pyrite dominated from the discovery at Area A. Pyrite can lead to refractory ore, which is low recoveries and or expensive capex. So what we did initially was to look at taking 10 representative samples from Area A, where all the drilling has identified the mineralization in sulfide, and did bottle rolls on that to check for the refractory ore. So some of the key findings out of that were no refractory ore, very clean ore. So all we get, the main 99% of the sulfide phase is actually pyrite, which means there's no arsenic, there's no mercury, there's low tellurium, and there's very low copper, which all flows through to mean we don't have elements there that are going to start robbing or impacting the ability of cyanide to extract the gold from potential processing material. So the recoveries are all 97% or higher, which points to a simple process flow sheet with direct cyanidation. So very similar to what you have at Guancoto or Fekola, standard, relatively low capex and importantly low opex with great recoveries. So the other part of that MET study was that the kinetics, which is the time that the material has to reside in cyanide for the gold to be extracted and absorbed into the cyanide solution, are relatively fast, or actually very fast. We did 12 2448, and we're getting 99% of the total recovered gold is recovered within the first 12 hours, which sets us up for a great optimization studies. If we can look at reducing the residency time, that means faster flow through the tanks. If we can reduce the crush size, if we can increase the grind size also, then we have a lower OPEX and lower CAPEX on building the upfront crushing circuit. So great results. You probably couldn't have asked for better results, with a lot of scope to still improve those with further studies. So we'll be doing more detailed met work later in this drill program. We'll be drilling some Met Pacific diamond holes, which are quite a bit coarser, sort of core size, about that size, to get sample purely for the Met studies. Lycopodium will be supervising and running that program for us, and we'll also be adding.
Sorry, Mike. And you will be doing this during this program, the metals.
Yeah, so we'll do the drilling for it during this program, and as you see, sort of, you typically see companies release met holes which have fantastic assays because they're aimed at the heart of the systems and what might be representative feed for the program. So we'll aim to do them towards the end of this program, and we'll also be including Area D, which our drilling is now showing to be looking quite significant. All those samples that we did, the 10 samples, were all fresh rock, low, medium and high grade. So we'll now be adding the oxide material from Area D and the fresh rock material from Area D to look at a more encompassing met level scoping study on the metallurgy.
Thanks, Mike. So great met results, no refractory ore and high recoveries. That's great. So one box ticked.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the drill results from yesterday. Horrible timing though, but yeah, nothing you can do about that. Can you take us through them quickly? So 44 meters at 4.3, 49 meters at 3.6.
Yeah.
Can you give us some more color?
Yeah, so basically, the Discovery Traverse that we drilled in July was a northeast trending traverse of 5 holes. All holes hit. The highest, I think, was 48 meters at 6.7, 55 meters, 36 meters, 38 meters, 34. So thick zones, but all on a northeast trending line and all 50 meters apart. So potentially a strike there of 250. We weren't sure at that stage if we were drilling for the strike or what we were drilling on. The drilling that we've got now from 11 holes out of a total of 27 that we've actually drilled at Area D before the rigs moved off to Area A. These initial holes are showing that the oxide is not confined to that linear Discovery Traverse. They're scattered up to the northwest and also to the northeast and also down to the south and central. So it's showing that there is a broad oxide mineralization there. We actually believe that we've got a similar situation at Area D that we have at Area A. Area A, we have 2 conjugate fault orientations, or sort of mineralized structure orientations, of northeast and northwest. And it looks as though we may be onto that sort of type system at Area D as well, in terms of if you look at the alignment and where things are falling in. We can't confirm that until we get the remaining holes in, the 16 holes that are pending on Area D. But the signs are pretty encouraging that we've got oxide, we've got that extensively. We're getting the fresh root sulfide mineralization as well. So 18 meters at 2.36, 5 at 3.57, 14 at 2.3. So we're getting, and it's what we saw in those initial holes. We saw the initial Discovery Traverse. We had high, thick grades in the oxide, and then we had broader, slightly lower grades, but still higher than 1 gram in the sulfide zones. And this drilling has now confirmed that also, which is very encouraging because it shows that there's a route to the system. That mineralization is fine sulfide. It's slightly different to what we see at Area A. So we're in a different part of the system. But the amount of pyrite that we're seeing in these quartz carbonate sort of stringers within the hydrothermal breccia, we believe is orientated on multiple orientations, similar to Area A, different style, but we've got depth potential there. So now it's really putting that together with the remaining holes, working out the orientations exactly, and then drilling those out.
Yeah, so the news release states multiple intersections of pyrite mineralization suggest the mineralization system may be extensive. Could you elaborate on that? What does it mean and how can it be extensive?
Yeah, the concern with oxide when you drill oxide is always whether it's 100% supergene and there's no underlying sort of fresh local source for that mineralization. These sulfides have shown that we do have a source there. I think we've only scratched it. It's a broad system where we're not getting quartz veins with visible gold and coarse gold. We're getting an alteration and a hydrothermal system that's creating brecciation and then depositing these, or post or pre or syn, is depositing these sulfide zones of pyrite, which shows a big pumping fluid system. The alteration is broad, the brecciation is significant, all very positive signs in terms of this has been an area that has been subject to considerable fluid flow and ground structural preparation, which are all key, both two key requirements for major scale deposits.
Okay, so the first thing I noticed, and I wasn't the only one who noticed, Mining Book Guy also noticed it, and I believe his question on Twitter was also about this. Is there any specific reason that the drilling direction from the new holes is different than from the discovery traverse?
Yeah. So, and if you look at the drill plan there, we've drilled in various phases in a number of orientations on that area, on Area D. The first hole that we hit there was 18 meters at 5.7, I think it was, from 6 meters way up to the northwest, drilling to the southeast. So through the subsequent rounds of drilling, we hit the 53 meters at 2.6. We supposed a northwest trend, which is what we see at Area A is the dominant trend. So hence we drilled to the northeast to drill perpendicular to that northwest trend. It looks from the drilling that we've done under that discovery traverse, where we drilled to the northeast and southwest, that actual traverse may be on one of the structures, that is, one of the structures that is hosting a mineralization. So that has combined with the potential of northeast trends, which we're now seeing as what we're also seeing in the drilling. We've got two trends, northeast and northwest. The only way to hit both of those is to drill east or west. So what we've done is, we could say, right, all the orientation is northwest and keep drilling northeast. But from that discovery traverse, we've confirmed that, and with this round of drilling, we've confirmed that there is a trend that's running to the northeast, same as Area A. So by drilling east or west, we can hit both of those trends and avoid drilling subparallel or parallel to one of them if we preference the other one. So it's a matter of covering both bases with one drill hole.
Yeah, makes sense. So the discovery traverse had, let me see, 5 holes. Why didn't you follow up with any holes to the northeast in the discovery traverse?
Yeah, it's really been a matter of where we could get the rig. We came onto the property straight after wet season. There's been a lot of water in the holes also. So that'll be something that we will do. You're right, if you look at the plan view in the news release from yesterday, it shows the holes that are pending. There is no immediate hole up to the northeast. Again, we had no idea at this day when we planned these holes. We had no idea what the orientations were. It's only through looking at these drilling results and looking at visually what we're seeing in the pending holes that we said, okay, we do have a northeast trend as well as that northwest. And so it will be drilled when the rigs come back on to Area D. That closing it off and chasing it up to the northeast will be a prime focus and logical sort of step out zone for us to look at extending it.
So I believe we have 18,000 meters left in the current program, more or less.
More or less, yeah.
How will it be targeted? I believe Area D is the main target for this program, and then Area A. But will the other targets also be drilled this program?
Yes, so this program, the rigs are on Area A at the moment doing extension drilling. They'll then go back to Area D and open and when we've got all the results in, look at extending up to the northeast and looking at filling in now and extension of what we found at Area D. Western Splay and the Southern Arc targets are two major targets for us. The Southern Arc target is an extensive 3 kilometre sort of strike length going through the middle of the area. The northern part of it is within the sort of Northern Arc zone where Area A and Area D are. And Western Splay is what initially attracted us to the property as a highly prospective tenement, because it was a structure that we could see from the coarse airborne geophysics. All the deposits on the Senegal Mali shear zone are hosted on structures that splay off the actual main shear zone. So that western splay is critical as a potential host for mineralisation. The northwest trend that we found at Area D and Area A as a mineralised trend is parallel to that trend. So that is the critical control trend, and we're yet to actually drill it. So we'll get to that. The soil terrain there is a little bit different to where Area A and Area D are, where we've got sort of lateritic cover and it's hard iron pan surface and rig access is easy. When a little bit later in the season, we'll get the rig down to Western Splay and really looking forward to getting a few holes into that, because it's undrilled. It has an auger anomaly, has a screaming IP anomaly and an airborne geophysics anomaly on it. So it's a structure that could be very prospective.
Let me jump in here real quick, Mike. And I just pulled up the map as well, and just in terms of Area A and D, at one point are you going to call it just one area?
Yeah, and they're Area A, Area D, because they were the alphabetical lines that hit. We did A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. They're 500 metres apart, east-west. They look to be faulted off by that late northeast fault. They look to be part of the same system. If you slide them back together along that northeast fault, the geological models actually coincide very well in terms of the orientations. We call it the Northern Arc, but then we subdivide that into A and D. So who knows if they join up? We believe that they did originally.
Okay, fantastic. Also, just because it's the geochemistry map that I have here with some of the holes indicated, how well does it line up? Like, now that you've seen quite a few holes come out of Area D and A, how well does it line up, and how well, like in terms of percentage, does it really fit your model?
Yeah, it lines up pretty well, actually. It lined up very early in the program once we did the IP and we could cut along the line and slide it along, and it fitted well. We put the geology together. It's fitting well. The only thing that's different is the lithologies that we're getting in Area D look to be younger or higher up in the sequence. So the northwest block of that along that fault zone looks as though it's down dropped. So we're drilling through rocks above the sequence that are present at Area A. So that's the sort of difference that obviously needs to be put together. That you can't stitch the lithologies between the fault zones up and where the discoveries are, but certainly the structural orientations are there to suggest that it is part of the same system.
Fantastic, Christian. You had a couple more questions, I think.
One last question. In July, you raised $6 million. How far will that take you? You can obviously finish the current program, but will you be able to do a follow-up program with the current funds, or will you hit the market after this program?
Yeah, the current treasury will take us through, as you mentioned, Christian, correctly, through this current program of 20,000 metres. Plus the sort of additional IP and stuff surveying that we've got planned. So that'll probably finish in March, late March. So come April April, May, we'll still have time to do some drilling. The program, subject to the Treasury, that program could be 5 or 10,000 meters and timescales. We could obviously accelerate that with more rigs. So yeah, there will be a need to do some funding in the future to meet further drilling. But it's certainly with 20,000 meters, we've only done historically 17,000 meters on the property up to date. So we're doubling the drilling, and we're fully funded for that. So that's the prime sort of focus at this stage.
No, I understand. You currently have one drill turning, right?
No, we've got two. We've got a diamond rig and an RC rig. We may look at playing with that mix and maybe go to two RCs whilst we generate more targets for the diamond to keep chasing, or vice versa. We've got that flexibility at the moment. So 2 rigs turning. We could always bring on a third if needed. So we'll just play that by ear.
That's great. Thank you, Mike. That were all my questions. Back to you, Kai.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, just sort of following up on what you just said about the rigs. It sounds like there's a lot of availability. And so the follow-up question there is like, what's the lap availability, like turnaround times? Do you see any impacts or anything? Because you still have the 16 holes pending. And the follow-up question to that is, when do we see the next results?
Yeah, rigs are reasonably available because it's early in the season there. We were actually surprised by the lab turnaround from these results. Because of the sanctions that were imposed on Mali, drilling companies who didn't have all their supplies in country were delayed in starting up their drilling programs in Mali. So we actually found that the lab was quite empty. There was no backlog, and it took about 10 days to get the assays back from the lab, which is extraordinary. Gold boom times, and we got our results back in 10 days. Later in the season, so April, May, June, it typically can be 4 to 5 weeks. So really fast turnaround. We hope to therefore get the results for the next batch when that gets sent off. So we hope to get the final, we've got 16 holes in probably 2 to 3 weeks. We'll get those. And that'll be sort of before Christmas, and then we'll have the next batch following that in the new year, I'd imagine.
Fantastic. Put a nice little bow around it. It's a Christmas present, right?
Yeah. Well, it keeps running. Now we just need gold price to stabilize and stop running and flowing and going over the place. The world economy is in shambles. I can't believe the gold has got that variability, but it swings and roundabouts. You get your times right, you get your times wrong. We just keep going. We're getting very positive results. The things are looking good, that this is a big story, potentially very big discovery. So all we can do is keep drilling it and trying to prove that.
Fantastic. Maybe just in summary, just to put a bow around the whole Chester story as well, like news flow next 3 to 6 months. We talked about drill results. Anything else in the pipeline that we need to keep an eye out for?
No, 20,000 meters in a shallow, high-grade gold zones. In a fantastic jurisdiction. Senegal really is a standout in Africa, and it's in the top 4 of Botswana, Namibia, Ghana, and Senegal. Senegal is the most underexplored of those. So as a gold belt, it really has a lot of potential. We've got active majors beside us on both sides of us. We've got a lot of news flow. We've got a lot of things are lining up positively. So we'll just have to keep drilling and hope that we keep getting the results and keep de-risking the project as we go along.
Fantastic. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. Christian, thanks for hosting or co-hosting here. Really appreciate the input. Always great to have an expert who knows way more about some companies than I do. My problem is I don't follow ASX companies too closely, and it's a big loss on my end. So, but really appreciate you joining us, Mike, and it helps that you're here in Vancouver, so I don't have to be in the office till like 6 p.m. to do an interview with you. So really appreciate that. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the question. I think we got to the question from Mining Book Guy. I think that was hopefully satisfactorily answered in terms of the direction of drilling, and I think Mike addressed that properly. As you can see, this is an interactive format. We want to make sure that you get the best information out of these interviews, so make sure you use the hashtag function in the future as well. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on YouTube, leave a comment, leave a like. Really appreciate hearing from you. Companies like hearing from you as well. So if you have any remarks for Mike, make sure you put them in there as well, and we'll make sure to circle them back to him and even get you an answer if there's a question in there. That's it from our end. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be back soon with another update.